Hello and welcome to Exceed Learning. In this video, we're going to show you an operation known as unfill or reverse fill in Power Query. The table we will be dealing with today is on the left side, and what we want to achieve through Power Query is the table on the right side. This is something that is easily done with pivot table. And basically what we want to achieve is to have the name of the person only written in the first row of the table where it appears, and then for all the other rows we want to include a null value or a blank value. First, we will show you two techniques. The first technique is a fast one and easy to implement, while the second technique is a more robust one but also technically more difficult to understand and also to implement. So let's go first to data and let's load this table into our Power Query. So the first technique is to use the group option. Let's go to Home tab, let's go to Group By, and we will group by the name column, and we wish to group all rows. So the operation is all rows. After we do a grouping, we will receive a nested tables which consist of values associated with the name mark. We need to now include an index column into this nested table. This underscore represents the nested tables. What we want to do, we want to add index column to this nested tables. The index column, we want to name that index column as index, and we wish to increment by 1 and set the starting point as 1. When we confirm, now each of our nested tables receive an index column going from 1 to the number of merged or the number of grouped rows. We now need to expand this table, these nested tables. We will only expand the value column. As you can see, you cannot expand index column. That is, I would say, a bug in Power Query user interface. So you cannot, if you add a column to the nested table with the formula, there is no way you can expand it with these sideways arrows. What you have to do, you have to expand the values, the columns that were originally the part of the nested table, and then you have to write the name of the column index manually. Index. We now receive also the index column, and what we can do now is we can add a conditional column and check if the index column equals to 1. And if it equals to 1, that we want to return the name, this value, and otherwise we wish to return the null. We click on OK, and now we choose to keep only these two columns, and we can call this column name. So this is the first technique. It's pretty fast. It's I think also faster than the second technique, but I want to show the second technique because it hides complexity which could help you in more advanced scenarios. So now we will duplicate this query. Let's duplicate it, and we will delete everything from this step. So the second technique is to add an index column right at the beginning. And what we now want to do is to compare these values, so the values of the current row of the name column, if they are the same than the previous row value. First, let's show how to access a previous row using Power Query. So we have the index column. We will now add a custom column, and we will access the same step within the nested column. So what we will do, we will write hashtag and add index as a step. So we will reference this step for each for each row in this column. As we can see, for each row we get the same nested table. Now we need to filter these nested tables so that for each nested table, the index that survives is the index of the outer table minus 1. So in this table, only the row 1 has to survive. In this table, the row 2, and for each additional table, the minus 1 index needs to survive. We will first need to format this code so that it looks like something. Okay, so we will use table.selectColumns function, which is an iterative function that is creating a kind of a row context, and for each row of this nested table, it will check if the conditions are met, and if the conditions are met, then that row will survive. And what is the condition? The condition is, now this is the crucial part. We wish to check the condition of the inner index row compared to the outer index row. In order to do that, we need to add an inner variable that is linked to the inner row context, and then we can check that condition against the outer one. So to add an inner variable, we need to create a formula or function invoke or a function syntax, and we need to define the inner variable. I will define it as inner index. And now we can start with the condition. So what we want to check is the inner index. This is the column of the inner of the nested table. So this table, this index is this column. And we want to check it if this is the same as an index column. And this index column, oh sorry, we need to add it in square brackets. And this index column is the column of the outer row context. And this index column has to be index minus 1. After we close the brackets, we receive an error. Okay, let's check where did I make the mistake. Okay, I see it. Table select rows, not table select columns. Okay, great. And now what we receive is for each row, we receive a nested row that is the previous row of the outer iteration. What we can do now, we can select only the name column of these nested tables. To do that, we will add a name in curly brackets, so the name of the name column in square brackets. And then we receive a list, and to access the first row of the list, we'll use the curly brackets syntax. We receive an error for the first row because there is no row minus 1. We can use replace errors with null. And for the last part, we need to do a conditional column and check if the name equals the custom column. If that's true, then we want to return null, else we want to return the name, the value in the name column. And the same things, the same thing will happen. We will choose the custom one column and the value column, remove other columns, and this is the name column. So these are the two ways we can do the unfill or reverse fill in Power Query. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe button. If you have any questions, please post them down below, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.